The cold wind of an early autumn evening rushed through the small neighborhood park in Minneapolis, making the swings groan softly as they swayed. Jacob Miller, a tired single father with calloused hands and a heart worn down by struggle, sat on a weathered bench watching his 6-year-old daughter Emily chase the dying sunlight with innocent laughter. He had come here to breathe, to let the heaviness of life settle for a moment. He never expected the moment that would follow, the sound so sharp and desperate that it seemed to slice through the world around him. It was the heartbreaking sob of a child, not playful or stubborn, but a raw, broken sound that carried something deeper. Jacob lifted his head and felt a strange instinct pull at him, urging him to stand, urging him to look. Emily paused too, sensing it, and there beneath the tall oak tree near the edge of the park was a little boy alone, trembling, crying into his hands as though the world had abandoned him. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to support stories that bring hope into the world. Jacob hesitated only for a second. Life had made him cautious, aware that people often misunderstood intentions, but his empathy was stronger. He approached slowly, keeping his voice gentle, even without words. The boy, maybe 8 years old, with messy dark hair and a small backpack tossed beside him, seemed lost in more than just location. He seemed lost in life itself. Jacob crouched down at a comfortable distance, letting the silence sit between them like a safe bridge. Emily, always gentle-hearted, came closer too, but stayed behind her father. Jacob waited, and eventually the boy lifted his swollen eyes. The depth of fear in them made Jacob's chest ache with a memory he wished he didn't know. The memory of being small, scared, and alone. He encouraged the boy to breathe, offering his presence without pressure until the child finally calmed enough to reveal his name, Caleb. He whispered that he wasn't lost, but waiting for someone who didn't come, waiting for something he didn't know how to explain. Jacob didn't push, simply guiding him to sit on the bench so he wasn't shivering alone under the tree. The sky grew dimmer, the clouds thicker, and Jacob felt a protective instinct rising. Years of hardship had taught him the duty of standing up for someone's pain, even when the world was indifferent. Minutes passed, then nearly half an hour. Emily offered Caleb her small stuffed bear, making him clutch it tightly as if anchoring himself. Jacob looked around, hoping to see a parent or guardian rushing over, but no one came. The growing cold sharpened his concern. Something was wrong. And then, from the far end of the park, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed against the concrete path. A man, tall, well-dressed, with silver streaks in his hair, rushing as if life depended on it, appeared. His chest was heaving. His eyes were red, not from running, but from something deeper, something breaking. The sight was startling enough, but what struck Jacob even more was recognition. He had seen this man on billboards, in newspapers, on screens across the state. Jonathan Reeves, one of the richest men in the country, head of Reeves Global Holdings, billionaire philanthropist, a man the world believed had everything. Yet here he was, sprinting toward a child with tears streaming down his face. The moment Jonathan reached the bench and saw Caleb safe, he collapsed to his knees, pulling the boy into his arms with a desperation that revealed more love than any headline ever had. But Caleb didn't hug him back. He didn't reject him. But something hesitated. Something unspoken stood between them. Pain, confusion, maybe disappointment. Jacob stepped back, guiding Emily aside. He understood something private was unfolding, something he had no intention of intruding on. But Jonathan looked up at him, breathless and shaking, gratitude flooding his expression. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. He wasn't a billionaire in that moment. He was a father terrified of losing his son. Jonathan eventually stood, wiping his face quickly as though ashamed to be seen vulnerable. He thanked Jacob with a sincerity that felt heavier than the words themselves. But before Jacob could respond, before Jonathan could gather himself, Caleb spoke again, this time revealing the truth that shattered the remaining air between them. He said he had come to the park alone because he overheard adults at home saying his father never had time for him. He believed he didn't matter, that the world loved his father but didn't care about him, that his dad's meetings, his empire, his fame were more important than spending one simple, quiet evening with him. Jonathan closed his eyes as if the words struck his soul like a hammer. He knelt again, his face buried in his hands. Jacob felt a weight in his own chest. Not pity, not judgment, but recognition. He had lost his wife 2 years ago to a sudden illness, and ever since he had fought tooth and nail to be enough for Emily. To not let work or exhaustion steal the love she deserved. To not become the kind of father who meant well, but loved from too far away. Jonathan seemed shaken to the core. He picked up Caleb carefully, holding him tightly, as though he feared letting go again. Jacob watched them, feeling a strange mixture of admiration and sorrow. Wealth didn't shield a man from heartbreak. Status didn't excuse human frailty. Parenting, in all its beauty and difficulty, humbled everyone. Jonathan turned back to Jacob, apologizing again and again, saying he had misunderstood Caleb's needs, that he'd been consumed by running companies and charity events, trying to make the world better, forgetting the world inside his own home. He confessed he had promised Caleb to arrive early today, to take him out for ice cream and a walk, but got trapped in a crisis meeting and panicked when he realized Caleb wasn't at home, that he had searched everywhere before authorities traced him to the park. Listening to him tremble as he spoke reminded Jacob that every father carried silent battles. Jacob wanted to reassure him, but the truth needed no words. His presence, his kindness toward Caleb, had already said enough. As the night darkened, Jonathan insisted on driving Jacob and Emily home as a thank you. Jacob politely declined at first, uncomfortable accepting anything from someone so wealthy. But Jonathan insisted gently, not as a businessman flaunting status, but as a grateful father whose heart had been saved. Eventually, Jacob agreed. During the drive, Jonathan kept glancing at his son in the rearview mirror, as though checking he was still there, still safe. The luxury car was silent except for Caleb's soft breathing, and Emily's curiosity as she admired the star-like lights on the car ceiling. Jacob sat quietly, feeling strangely out of place, yet deeply connected to what had happened. When they reached Jacob's small, run-down apartment building, Jonathan's expression shifted. He looked at the peeling paint, the cracked steps, the dim hallway lights flickering. Jacob's life, once invisible, was now exposed. He felt a flush of embarrassment, but he stood tall, guiding Emily out of the car. He didn't owe shame to anyone for working hard, for surviving, for raising a child alone. Jonathan stepped out too, holding Caleb's hand firmly. He thanked Jacob again for saving Caleb not just physically, but emotionally, by being present in a way he himself had failed. Jacob accepted it with humility. Then Jonathan hesitated, glancing once more at the aging building. He asked if Jacob needed anything, help, support, resources. Jacob refused softly. He had always believed in standing on his own feet. But Jonathan persisted gently, not by offering money, but by offering connection. He said good fathers needed support too. He asked Jacob for a chance, not to repay him, but to learn from him, to build a friendship rooted in fatherhood, not financial worlds. Weeks passed after that night, and the connection between the two families grew naturally. Jonathan visited often, not with cameras, not with assistants, but alone with Caleb. They joined Jacob and Emily for walks, small dinners, Sunday church, and simple joys. Jonathan admitted he had forgotten in the chaos of success. Jacob, once invisible and overlooked by society, became a grounding force in Jonathan's life. And Jonathan, in turn, opened doors Jacob never imagined. Not through charity, but through genuine belief that Jacob's quiet resilience deserved more. With time, Jonathan helped Jacob get a steady job in one of his companies, not out of pity, but because he saw leadership in him. Jacob became a steady presence in their corporate community, balancing work and parenthood with the same integrity he always had. And Caleb slowly healed, learning again how deeply his father loved him. Their bond strengthened, and the nights once filled with silence became filled with laughter and moments of presence. Jacob became like an uncle to Caleb. Emily found a protective, big brother figure, and two families that began as strangers in a storm of fear became one woven by compassion. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. Each man still fought daily battles, but now they no longer fought alone. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help us continue creating emotional, meaningful stories for you. Special request, comment the word hope if you believe kindness can change lives. As autumn returned the following year, Jonathan and Jacob found themselves once again at the same park where everything began. The kids played under the golden leaves, their laughter echoing through the trees. Jacob stood next to Jonathan, watching over them with pride in their hearts.